Okay, Deon Debatsan. We'll go ahead and get started for our Sunday session, first Sunday session for fall 2025. Today, August 17th. So we'll go ahead and get started. So we go from around 3 o'clock to about 5 o'clock. So it's about 2 hours, give or take. We try to do a opening and closing prayer, and usually we'll do the opening prayer. We'll use one of the opening prayers from the tapes that we're listening to. So that's what we're going to do this afternoon. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And what we'll do is these recordings are set up. They'll basically introduce the speakers. They'll have an opening prayer, and then they'll kind of introduce the topic. And then they'll be speaking about the topic, and they'll be speaking in Kiowa. And then each speaker will kind of get a chance to give their perspective on the topic. And then we'll get a chance to kind of reflect on each of the topics as we go through. So for learners, it's a good opportunity to listen and just kind of hear our language being spoken by fluent speakers. Some of them are our ancestors, our relatives, which is super exciting because, for some of us, maybe they're familiar voices. And so that's always really cool. So you never know, you might see one of your relatives or hear one of their names or their voices on these recordings. With that, the recording that we are going to listen to today. So first I'll just share this really quick. This is the list, the folder with all of the Kiowa Culture Program recordings. So this is kind of what we pick from each week. Everyone kind of comes with topics, and we kind of pick and choose. There's a couple hundred recordings, and I think over the past 5 years, we've maybe gotten through half of them. So there's still quite a bit to get through. And there's some recordings that we just like listening to over and over because they have so much in them. And then there's some recordings that we really want to just translate, and there's a lot of good prayers, and there's some recordings that have these really old words that we want to really understand. And some of the recordings are seasonal, so we'll try to listen to the ones that are timely, according to the time of year or kind of what's going on at that time of year. So for instance, around the 4th, around Kiowa Gore Clan time, we like listening to the ones about setting up the Rush Arbor or the Thai Bay, or even brush dance songs, things like that. So anyway, that's kind of how we pick our topic, is we all just kind of come with some ideas, and we all decide each week where we want to. Sometimes we don't get through the whole recording, and that's okay. We'll pick it up the next time, and we just kind of continue until we get through it. Some of the recordings are short, like maybe 10, 15 minutes, and other recordings, like the one we're going to listen to today, is over an hour long. So those kind of recordings, might take us a couple sessions to get through. And some of the recordings, the audio, these were originally recorded on tapes. And they were digitized by the Sam Noble Museum at OU. And sometimes the audio is a little bit hard to hear. So if we find a recording that is too hard to hear, then sometimes we have to stop and pick a different recording. So sometimes that happens. And there are some English transcriptions for some of these recordings, but not all of them. And so a lot of these, we just kind of have to rely on our own interpretations, and especially our mentors, our speakers' interpretations. And then for some of them, like I said, we've gone through and done a word by word translation of these recordings. And now let me tell you, that is tedious. That takes a lot of effort to go through. Even just going through a little 30-second clip of a recording is it can take a couple hours to go through that and really get it right. So but it's worth it because then at the end you have this transcript and you can actually read and hear what they're saying. So anyway, that's just kind of a quick introduction to this. There's actually an inventory of these recordings available on the Google Drive through the Kiowa Language Department and the Kiowa Language resources that we talked about on Wednesday. So that way you can see like the speakers and the topics and the year. But these were created by the Kiowa Culture Program in the 1970s. Okay, so let me pull up our recording. Share the sound. Okay, any questions before we get started? All right. Okay, hopefully I have my volume up enough. I'm going to go ahead and test the audio. So I'm going to press play for a second and someone just let me know if you can hear it. I'm not sure how sometimes they start off and it's kind of loud in the beginning, so kind of brace yourself.
Kiowa Culture Program, June.
Can everyone hear that okay? Awesome. All right, cool. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and listen. They're going to introduce the topic and I think they'll probably introduce the speakers. You'll hear the date and then they'll go into the opening prayer and then we'll kind of pause after the opening prayer and then we'll go into listening to the speakers one by one. So, okay. Cool. And just raise your hand if you want me to pause the recording. But usually what I'll do is I'll just pause it. I'll stop it after each of the speakers so that we can kind of ask questions and reflect. All right. Cool.
11th, 1979. We are at the Wetzeline Church, and our subject today is the Kiowa language, yesterday and today. Those present, George Coydaughty, James Silverhorn, Guy Tampy, Navy Soodle, Stephen Zotai, Margaret Dankow, Isabel Two Hatchet, Esther Topa, Gail Spotted Bird, Lois Toyball, Vicky Botger, and Bessie Ahady. And this morning we will have our prayer by Margaret Dankow.
Leone ahopatut kiitage eikote tulla idota. Kiida hundige an kide da ne do ame me do ta tengo. Do keto da tebe ge oi do ke do ko yan hai ge do hundi pe do ke do. Hundi haya sa do a do ko haya da ha ko ke hai di do de. Mo tem ge do ko oi do ke do oi ko. They own they nepali home da ai ke di ko de. Tula e do cha. Ge o ye they hundi ge an mai o di dom ke ne do I ko ge but Ê coi có coi trong cái đó để cái phi thế à nó hay tao cái tao bỏ để ôi giờ để bị một hay một xa đó đó ôi giờ hay á tao coi trong cái hắn cái phò một cái hai để tao có ôi giờ để cái đó có cái tao bỏ để cũng hay có khi đó để sang cái đó Tây cục này đó Tây gà cục cái cô thu lo nhá Tây Tây hai cái đó có đi đó trái của mỗi cái cục có món này khâu đó hụt châu của này cú ya thông phải đâu của hàng này to để hôn để cái sò hụt So they tell you, I like the big Lord chat. The key that I get in me. Good shadow, I can't get off open. Go like call on. Mon kuto kuaku yogonita do de bastonka. Con shadow ne oh yeah, they don't get caught by the chat. I get they too, they meet or they ain't one day. Get bo they get on my ankle. Key they that the keys at the. Đâu gu đâu à đâu, học coi của à đâu có. On they get bo they get tied out and I call. Con they bake the chat. I get they get high they on it. On they both cụ thông đó để ác đó cũng có thể cá sọ hữu đấy. They do no more cái đó để hữu tội có bụt. So lot oi đó để oi để get đó hôn để ác sọ hữu đấy này. Hai ai bê được ác cụ bê cụ đó không kẻ khổ. Amen.
Okay, so that was Margaret Dankoff, and so she gave the opening prayer. I think they said it was October, was it October or November at the Wetzeline Church in what year? 1979? Yeah, okay. And let's see. Hi, Jamie, welcome. No worries, you're just in time. We just listened to the opening prayer. I'm just putting the title of the recording in the chat. Kiowa Language, yesterday and today. I was just saying a minute ago that when we listen to these recordings, sometimes we'll hear our ancestors or our elders or our elders' elders or our relatives' voices in these, which is really awesome. I always like listening to the when they pray because it reminds me of my grandma Ruth, her prayers, and Grandpa Nelson, Co Nelson Bigbo, his prayers. Like, it's just really cool to hear them. So it's pretty cool. The cool thing about these recordings is they're all in Kiowa. There are some speakers that do interject English here and there, and so you'll notice some of them here and there, and you'll kind of see those speakers that use a little bit of English here and there. Those are kind of some of the younger elders, as they kind of are more familiar with English words. So did anyone have any thoughts on her prayer there?
Yeah, I was thinking, I was listening. I was really trying to catch a few of the things I recognized just since I've started really trying to study Kiowa. I caught Kida, or which is like day, and trying to think of some other ones that I caught. Of course, Beidotsi, and but I'm like, out of that, that was pretty long, and I only caught a few things, and I thought, my Lord, I really don't know what she was praying. And you think you would know more after all this time, but so I'm really anxious to be able to hear it and understand it.
Well, that's awesome. So like I can kind of catch the drift of what she's saying, and I've been listening to these recordings for about 15 years now. So I think it's like a lifelong journey, but like our grandmas have told us, the best way to learn is to listen to these recordings and just kind of listen over and over. I remember my grandma Ruth, she would go to bed with either listening to gourd dance songs, tonkonga songs, peyote songs, or these recordings. She would just play them over and over and over. And she said as she got older, there were less and less people to speak to. And so she played the recordings to feel like she had people to speak to. So it's I heard she said Kekomba, so like the people, like Kekomba, and like the Kiowa people, and then Kekomba, like all the people in general. And then she said Kopki, like something about sickness, like maybe there was a sickness going around. And then she prayed for everyone. I heard she said Soleil, the soldiers. She prayed for soldiers. And she said for the let's see, she said Thogul Boy Thogulda, the Kiowa young men and the Kiowa young women. So maybe there was something going on around that time. And it didn't seem like in the introduction that there was very many elders present at this particular meeting. So maybe there were some people that were out sick that they were wanting to kind of pray for. But it's just really neat. Like you do catch on more and more, especially as you kind of get more into our conversations, you'll be able to kind of hear more and be able to pick out phrases here and there. Hi, Deanie, welcome. We're just getting started. We're listening to Kiowa Culture Program tape number 176, Kiowa Language Yesterday and Today. And we just listened to the opening prayer that was given by Margaret Dinka. Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and play the recording and we'll see who the first speaker is.
Goigu, Paga, Don't get do. Tősan éga, get gajtosan. Don't get do, honde, get oma. Dot, Tausan, ajoto, te honte, ke haja, tot aka, ak ekomta.
So that was really fast. I think that was Grandma Dee's father, Louis Toiba. For this Kiowa Culture Program, he was hired as the chief translator. I think he was like the oldest elder as part of that program. And so in 1979, I forget, we'll have to ask Grandma Dee how old he was at the time, but I think he was pretty up there in years. But usually his role was he would either be the first speaker or the last speaker, and he would always either kind of give a very high level overview of the topic, like his perspective of the topic, or he would do like a summary at the end of everything. And so he's saying Anki, that's that means a long time ago in the past. And he's talking about how Bozanma, how we talked Kiowa a long time ago. We didn't know any other language except for Kiowa, and that was all we talked. And that was how we knew the world. But he kind of just keeps his speeches pretty short and sweet, but he really gets right down to the point of what he wants to say. I always like listening to him because he's very eloquent, but he speaks very directly. Any questions or any words that anyone caught or would like to ask about?
Yeah, you said that on key.
Mhm.
That means a long time ago.
Ha, that means long ago in the past.
Okay, and then he said, but then you said, because I wrote this part down, because I recognized Tozanma or
Mhm.
Tho, and I wasn't sure what that meant, and you said, I wasn't sure
It's
what you said it.
it means talking, like you're using the language, talking.
Okay,
So
Tozanma.
Dozanma, yeah. It's a form of dongya. So like dongya is like the verb to talk or to speak. And dozanma is like when you're talking and using the language. So it's basically like saying dongya, but it's a different verb conjugation.
Oh, okay, because I didn't recognize it because it's Tozanma, which sounds like the TH, but when you say, I guess it's the same with Tongya. It's the same, huh? That they both start the same way.
Right, right. It's the same beginning sound. Let's see, thumbs up. I don't think those on my I don't think it has a nasalized. Let me pull up the glossary really quick because we can check that.
Okay.
Here, let me stop sharing really quick. I can pull up the glossary. Because that's a good question and I don't remember at the moment. So here, let's look at the glossary. Okay. So, and they use Thonzanma like a lot when they're referring to like English or Kiowa or really just any talking. They'll say Thonzanma. Whereas when you say Thonga, that's like speak, or like when you said like I said Thonga, like I said it. Um, let's see. So let's try speaking. See where it takes us. Okay. Don, don. No, that's not what we're looking for. Dongya. Okay, here's dongya, which is a basic verb saying, asserting, remarking. And that does have the nasalized. Dongya. And if you're looking at the 2025 glossary, that's on page 239. But how I find it is I use this little search function up here, little magnifying glass, and I'll put in the English word that I'm looking for. And sometimes I'll find it, sometimes you have to kind of test out a few a few words until you find one. Let's see, those on ma. So let's see, that's gonna be a little bit further down. Those on ma with the Z's. Okay, there it is. Okay, so thozanma is a mental verb. So dongya is a basic verb, and thozanma is a mental verb, and that's talking about, to be talking, to be conversing, to be speaking, or giving a speech. And so here's all the conjugations of talking. So it's basically depends on how you're using the word. So Mr. Toibo, when he was saying we spoke in Kiowa a long time ago, he wasn't talking necessarily about um a speech, or he wasn't talking about like talking between people. He was talking about we how we talked, um the knowledge that we carried in our speaking. And so those anmas, that's why it's a mental verb, because it's more it kind of carries more of a worldview within it. So it is kind of one of those nuances that we do have to kind of pay attention to, because when we're making sentences, sometimes the speaker will say, that doesn't sound right. And then they'll ask us to say it with don't get and then with those anma, and they'll say those anma sounds better. And that's why. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're like, if you're trying to you maybe do a lesson plan about like, let's talk Kiowa together, or let's talk like I wanted to do this lesson plan one time about like telling kids when to stop talking English and then when to start talking Kiowa, kind of like a transition type thing. And so I wanted to say dongya, but then all of the mentors I talked to told me that that wasn't correct. That wouldn't be appropriate. And so they told me to use dozanma, like that we're going to stop speaking English right now and we're going to start speaking in Kiowa right now. So it's kind of a nuance that like Grandma Dee always says, we have to think with our Kiowa brain, like we have to think in Kiowa. So that's the difference. So those two are very important words, and you'll notice some of these elders they'll use those anma a lot, whereas nowadays, because we're not as familiar with all these different verbs, we tend to just use the verbs that we've heard a lot of, which is dongya. And so it's good to listen to these recordings because then we can hear how they're using these different other verbs that way we can bring it back into our speaking. So that's a great question.
And one more thing I caught was dongya geda.
Dongya da. So anytime they say da, so da is our verb that means it is, like it exists. So it's the same thing as like the verb to be, or it is, like it exists. So when he's saying that, he's saying like it is, or that's the way it is, or it was, like it exists. So he's kind of saying like that's it, or that's how it is. So talking about the language. Aho, Donna, thank you for joining us.
What was the last word you just talked about?
Mr. Toibo said dongya gyada, and that D-A-W or D-A-U is the Kiowa verb to be. It's kind of the English equivalent of to be or is, was, are. It basically means to exist. Is, are, and that's da, D-A-U. And so you'll hear the elders saying that a lot, and that's usually when you're talking about something like it is, or that's the way it is, like they'll say yeah da. You have to use a pronoun with it. So his pronoun is, he's saying yeah da because he's referring to the verb the noun he's talking about is the language. So he's using dongya as the noun. So dongya yeah da, the language exists, or it exists. He's saying like it is, it exists.
So yeah, I know I hear that all the time. So you got to use yeah with the da, and what does yeah mean? Because I know we use it so much.
So not to freak anyone out or anything. So our pronouns can get kind of complicated. But that's one of our pronouns. Gya also serves as you'll hear gya a lot because it can also be it's a suffix to indicate a location. So like if I said I'm going to, or I live in Anadarko, then I could say Anadarko gya akilo. I live in Anadarko. I couldn't just say Anadarko akilo because everyone would look at me and laugh because it wouldn't make any sense. So in order to indicate a location of something, when you're talking to someone about where you are or where you're from, or where you're going, you have to add that gya at the end so that you're telling them it's a location of somewhere. Like for me, I live here in Clinton, so I would say Clinton gya akilo. I live in Clinton. And even if I'm talking about where I'm from, so I grew up in California, so I would say California gya kia, like I grew up in California. So you can get like as fancy as you want with whatever, like you can get, like you could tell someone like the street name, but however long it gets, like you still have to put gya at the end because that's like your little place if you're talking about a location. But gya is also used as a pronoun if you're using it with a verb. So the way that if you notice our So when I'm scrolling here through our glossary, one thing you'll notice is our language. So like, see, this is, anytime you see these tables here, these are verbs. Our language has tons and tons of verbs, like hundreds of verbs. And all of these right here are our verb tenses, our verb conjugations. So you know how like in English, like we say, like if we say is, like, or to be, like we say is, was, are, like those are the past, present, future, you know, all those kind of grammar terms you learn in like the 3rd grade or something. Well, in Kiowa, we have kind of something similar, but we also have many more conjugations. We have a command form of our verbs when we're like telling someone something like, hey, I want you to do this. We have a command form. We have a negative form of every verb. Basically, you have to say han, and then you say the pronoun, and then you say the verb. So that's what you have to, and then you can say this word. We have a hearsay tense. That is my favorite tense in Kiowa. It's my favorite verb conjugation because it's also called the storytelling tense. Because in Kiowa, it was like unethical. Like one of our values is to tell the truth, and it was unethical to lie about something. And so we have a whole verb tense dedicated to secondhand accounts. So if you heard like some gossip or a story from someone, and you heard something secondhand, you had to use the hearsay or storytelling tense when you're telling someone about that event. Otherwise, they would think you saw it firsthand. And then if they found out that like, oh, you didn't, then that would be horrible because you're lying about it. So we have a whole verb tense that's used. It's called the story. They use it for storytelling, but it's hearsay also. So it's basically anything that is not seen, firsthand. And then we have a future continuous, command continuous, and then hearsay continuous, negative future. So it's just really interesting, all of our verb conjugations, which I have not I don't know if anyone's like gotten this far with our language yet, but that's like my goal someday, is to be familiar with being able to conjugate. But for now, if we just get familiar with the types of verbs we have, because we have different types of verbs. But each type of verb, see how this little V2 part up here, this tells us what type of verb it is. That will indicate what type of pronoun we need to use with that verb, because there are certain pronouns that we have to use, which I'll show you the pronouns here in a second. But going back to, I was looking for daw and I scrolled way past it. So I hate that. Let me find it. Oh, where is it? I was trying to find the conjugation of D-A. Okay, here it is. Okay. Daw. Okay, daw. So daw, it's a basic verb and it means is, are, am, be, or exist. And you can see the tenses. I think it's interesting it doesn't have a command form. I guess you can't tell someone to exist because they already exist. I just think that's hilarious. But anyway, there's your conjugations of daw. So a lot of times when you hear like when you're hearing stories, like when we're hearing like same day stories or like the Zaide Tully stories, you'll hear them say dame a lot. And that's because they're using the hearsay, the storytelling tense. But in these recordings, a lot of the elders, like what Mr. Toivo just did, he'll say daw. And that's because he's saying like something like it is or it was, like that's how it was. And for a basic verb, so he's using ya as the pronoun. So now close your eyes because I'm going to go way to the end of this. And at the end are all of our pronouns. Oh, there's Miss Marion. So at the end of this 2025 glossary, let me stop sharing for a second because I'm going to pull the link for y'all. Hi, Miss Marion. Hampohyomda. Welcome.
Oh, de Kentucky.
Ah. Onde. Oi, bom. Let's see.
Oh,
We're just taking a look at the glossary. We were listening to we just got started with a recording. And we just heard Louis Toibo speak. It's recording 176, Kiowa language yesterday and today is what it's the title. So and so we were just looking up a couple of the words in the glossary. Okay.
What
So
time is it over there? Because this says, I think this time is wrong over here.
oh,
What time?
it's
What time?
3:50 here. 3:50.
Oh, we are. Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, here is the link.
5 o'clock over here.
Okay, I put the link to the updated glossary, the 2025 glossary in the chat. And that's what you can download if you don't have it already. It's also on the Google Drive, but it's 1011 pages. So if you try to print it, I would say it's probably better to use it digitally, because I remember one time I tried to print like the first version of it and it was like 600 pages and I gave up about 100 pages in and I was like, this is too much. Hyundai. Miss Marion? Yes.
What? Oh, no, I dropped something. I make a noise.
Oh.
Yeah, I was trying to get my note.
Okay. Let me share my screen again. Let's look back at the glossary. So at the back of that glossary, so when you download it, or if you bookmark the link so you have it, starting on page, oh gosh, let's see. Let's scroll way up. It's like, oh, here it is. Okay, page 963. It says pronoun glossary. And it'll have 2-part pronouns, step 1, step 2. Because 2-part pronouns have a person who's, you have someone who is doing the action and someone who's receiving the action. And then you have mental and possessive pronouns. And then you have 3-part pronouns, and these are when you have like a giver, a receiver, and an object that someone's giving to someone else. And then that's what the verb is, a 3-part verb. So those are 3-part pronouns. Basic pronouns. So we looked up the verb da. That's a basic pronoun. So when we said that Louis Toibo said gya da, don't get gya da. So he said gya da. So he said they. So he said that's how they talk. That's how they were. That's how they existed. Talking about dongya, the talking. And then you've got
It's like that's the way it is to get dog. That's the way it is.
aho. Thank you, Miss Marion. Yeah, we had a question on that because we noticed him say that. Okay. And this tells you which verb types. So when you look in the glossary, you'll see the verb type. And then this tells you what pronoun chart you can use with that verb type. So that'll help you when you're making sentences or if you're trying to translate. And then here's all the charts. these are the pronouns, and this tells you different the different types of verbs that you can use it with. Okay, so the way that I think of these verbs and pronouns is, so English, if you think of English language, English has many nouns. English language is a language of nouns, like very descriptive. If you think of like all the nouns and adjectives, like ways to describe a noun. Well, Kiowa is almost the reverse of that, because Kiowa has more, in English, there are more nouns than there are verbs. In Kiowa, there are more verbs than there are nouns. And that means, well, to me, I think that means, and we can all have our own interpretation of what that means, but what that means to me is that means that Kiowa language is a language of action. Our language has more verbs than nouns. So our language is very contextual. So it's very action oriented, and it's based on what people are doing. So you see people doing something, and you see things happening, and then you talk about it. And so you always have someone doing something, which is your verb, and then you have to identify who is doing it, and that's your pronoun. And so your pronouns and your verbs have to go together. And that's how it works in Kiowa. Whereas in English, English doesn't really have that. English is very abstract. It's not really, it's much more linear. It's not really based on relationships. And so Kiowa is more built on relationships, because we have someone doing an action, and our action has an impact on everything else around us. And so our language, naturally has that embedded into it. So verbs, pronouns are connected to each other. So that's kind of how I see it. So it's really not, that's why if you notice, our way of learning our language is not by memorizing a bunch of nouns and vocabulary lists, because there's no point. We wouldn't be able to talk to each other with a bunch of nouns, because our language is all verbs. We need to learn verbs to be able to talk to each other. So that's why we focus on verbs first, getting to know the verbs, getting to know the pronouns, and then you can learn nouns as you go along, and learn about how nouns fit into speech. But anyway, so
Well,
Hyundai.
yeah, well, the important thing is to learn the words and the language first, and then we can get into the verbs and the nouns, because that's where we have a lot of words that sound alike, but it depends on how we use that particular word, because you might hear that same word in a different context talking about something totally different, and then you hear it again in another, and so that's where a lot of our people get confused. And so, well, over there I heard the word me. Well, me is just a part of speaking, it's part of a phrase, but it doesn't mean it's an English word either. Like, person could say, "Hey, go me, hey, hey, go me, hey." Now, what did I say? Can you tell me what I said?
Hatsuna Dongia Haim. Is that like
Died,
tired?
died.
Died?
No,
Oh,
you could say,
died?
because it's like a person is just talking in general to somebody and saying, it could be talking about anything, about either making a joke about themselves or what it is, and they could say, "Well, I almost died." The translation in English. And so, but the Kiowa version is, "Hey, go me, hey." And so, hey, it's like almost me, him. And so that me in there is just a part of our word describing, you know, something almost happened. I almost died. It almost died. But I'm just giving that as an example because somebody will say, well, is me an English word? No, it's not. It's just part of our many words and the way they're put together, and the way you're an expression, or speaking and telling a story or explaining something. There's many words like that. It's like you said, Louis Toibo said, get dog, and that means like that's the way it is. I mean, if you translate it in English, it's that. That's it. That's the way it is. Goitongia. Hey, go. You know, ain't or, you're talking about get dog means like it. That's the way it is. Okay.
Oh,
I'm just interfering. Okay, go ahead.
oh, no, we appreciate that. Miss Marian, Hyundai Saito. Is the
Hyundai.
when you said Hega mean Haim, is that is it the
No,
same? Is it MIN?
no, no,
Is
no,
it
no.
like
I didn't
mean
say mean. No, I
oh, okay.
didn't. No, 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 no.
MI?
Hey, no, no. Hang on, me. It's like just the word me. There's no N or nothing on it. It's just hang on, me. Hey, I didn't
Mina.
say Mina or Mia or anything. Just like me, like M-E.
Oh,
Hang
okay.
on, me, him.
Oh,
So it does sound like she threw a little English in there, right?
No, what saying that is not. That is not. That's Kiowa.
it's a
People will say
colloquialism.
that some people will say, "Oh, is that an English word? Me? No, that is not. That's part of our language, Kiowa. But
I
it's
found it in the
people
glossary.
get all confused like that. Me. Hey go me, him. Said I
Here it
almost
is.
died, Hey go me. You got it?
Oh, I put it in
What'd you
the
come up
chat,
with?
everyone. Hega me. So it means almost, nearly so, not quite, barely. Hega me.
Yeah.
Hey.
So is
That
Ahim, does that actually died? Is that what she was saying? I almost died?
Haim is died. Yeah. Oh, Haim. Haim. Here, I'll type it in the chat so you can see. Hega. Let's see. Hega. Oh, me. Oh, Haim. I think Haim is with little hat on it.
It's just
Is that
like you say, hey,
Hatoha?
hey go. It's like you say, hey go me, do I thought. They on go. What did I say? Hey go me, do I thought. They on go.
Uh,
Is it something to do with family?
No,
Anya
you have to
Haiba.
break it down.
I have to look it up.
Hey
Uh,
go me, do I thought. They on go.
oh,
It means I almost kicked the bucket.
Oh, I was like, it sounds so familiar. I think I've heard Grandma Dorothy say that before. On go. On go. That's what. Okay, on go.
Oh, me, dot, dot. Dot, dot is bucket. They
Oh,
on go. I almost kicked the bucket.
those are hilarious. On go.
It's got that word me in there again. Hey, go me. It's like I almost kicked the bucket.
Oh, let me see if I can type that in the
Okay,
chat.
that's just, didn't mean to interrupt your portion. I was just gonna give you that example. That's it.
Oh, we
Obaha.
appreciate. Oh, all right. So I'll play the next speaker here. Oh, I'm trying to figure out how to type out da da. How would you spell that, Miss Marion? Da da. DAUAT? Using Mackenzie?
DAU. I'm just gonna spell it the way it sounds. DAU. Little break. Ot. OT. Little break. DAU. Da. Ot. Da.
Okay. Oh. Oh. And then, I'll have to go back and fix this, but I just put it in the chat so we have it. Okay. Awesome. All right. So let me share my screen again. And we're going to go ahead and play the next speaker. All right. Cool.
Klanki ko pue oi tō kia. Again, or the ki pātan kōngi ko. June on the tō kia. Okay, ko ya te on them ko. E ku ki ko. Ki tai dō te ki pā ki kul dō ko. Kia e kul te ko. Kia mō te ko. Kia tā ko. Nā kone ko koe tōng ke ki te ke dō te. Ke bat no tā. Hei ko. Tēn hiuen. Opa onda ya song hi e ko pa de onde ke mo koe me. Koe ko o ka pi koe doi ko de ko pa de onde ya ke o me ko parlen ko mon ke do da pa de ke I do sai ke. Koe ko ha ki yo koe koe do to matson ta ke mai be ku a ke e time ku ko e so bon mo ba mon to ba on so ta to se o me e ko mon to ka de ko e ka ho go o po de non de ha ya tong gem ko ke do ko koe ko po em old on the Saul folks think they got them total on them. When I told them que ya dom on it, and solo baton que. Coengo puego beton summit all taldo. All ne mamo coen male conde ya get on it. Oko padat na ya que coston que edom que coston que. Off of the ton que ba. Eko, Empola, the command baton. Eko, but there, get oil hard to go up, but then get no sun. Cool, I can't go. Okay, that's hard. It'll make up me, oh, they come and point him at that. Eko, Eko, son, but they come on, but beto. All day, Togo-lam, dog. Pan bắt trong cái tô cô lông để đèn ọ nó con thà lìa đó cả con đèn ọ nó cô bây giờ có ông để họ để mà thấy nó ở để có ác ý để đó cô tô nó ở có bầu nó ở nó mai có cái sai cái đó thìต่อได้อ้อยชาเด็ดตอนนี้ก็มานี่ก็ข้ามมาบุตรตัวน้องต่อเด็ดบุตรก็ข้ามนี่ก็ตัวเด็ดกิใส่กันนั่นนี่ฮันน้ำชอบก่อมาแต่เต็มก็ก้อยน้องกิตัวกันตรงสันแกก้อยตรงสันมาใบดอต่อใบดอสักตอนใดก็แกโกดุดแกมก็dog elk ekom danom dog denko payan munde same te ekom danom dog denko dome eita paito dog same te ekom da ke dog denko no kon ke ya dog denko sike yake denko god denko on the page, corner go time a day. I got to go saw whole gang go people. Frank could say carelessly, carelessly. No, ain't got bone don't get a daughter to con get ye got get daughter. Ain't got good dog up tonight. Salt the sick to your day and but don't get it. Con get ya on, don't go con get down. Bone don't get it to get on pale though. Can't get ya the chula but don't get it. Say Bobby, where the can't get ya but don't can't get ya dot no. Over.
Okay. Let's see. Miss Marion, do you recognize his voice? Do you recognize that speaker?
That was Koidoti.
Oh,
Koidoti.
George Koyodaki. Okay.
Yeah, Hobart, man.
Oh, aho. So Miss Marion, are you able to summarize, or do you have any comments on what he shared?
Well, he started out, he's talking about yesterday, and then he said one night, and then he said June. That's when they plant and prepare the gardens. And yesterday or previously, we spoke the Kiowa language. I guess he meant everyone spoke the language. And then Day Huey, like talking about in the afternoon, he was talking about the women working with their hands and also with their feet and gathering. I guess he's talking about preparing the ground, but we Kiowas we didn't plant things until the white farmers showed the Kiowas how to do that. And then he skips over to, he says some people they're don't sami, which means they like to make up lies or make up stories and kind of embellish them. It's like people like to show off, and so they can be liars. And so he started talking about So like 3, 4 different things. And then about this a woman, like an older woman, Elma, that's what he calls her, Elma, which means older woman. She'll be cooking food, preparing a meal, and then the husband, Akide, the man, said he'll be acting all day. I mean, that's just his version. And he'd be laying down taking a nap or something. And then he'd call, Elma, is the food ready? Like that. And so he was just kind of, in some ways, you could just touching on different topics here, all in his little story. And talked about how the women, of course, when you're married to one man, then that brother is also considered a husband too, his brother. But he just touched on that real quick. He didn't really go in depth. And he said they spoke Kiowa at that time, and they visited and spoke in Kiowa, and the land. He said it was large. The dome ate the large land that we lived on, all made by the Creator who made everything. And you talk about there was also the man like Helisay, and he said Sakte Sateoidi. So I don't know. There's another person named Sateoidi, if there was a younger one that he's referring to, because Sakte means like a younger, newer. Sateoidi is the name of a man. It means many bears. And Helisay was a Mexican captive who lived grew up among the Indians. And so you see, he had a mishmash of various topics, talking about different things and how they were back in the day when everyone spoke Kiowa.
Oh. Oh. I heard him say Maguime. And I'm guessing he was referring to when he was talking about the women, he was referring to
Oh
them.
yeah, the women were yeah, yeah,
Maguime.
they're good. Oh, as usual. We know that.
That's a pretty good word, good phrase to know.
The women were good workers, did everything,
They're useful,
took care of
resourceful.
things.
Yep. Still are.
Mhm. Most of them,
Awesome. Well,
I hope.
yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
Hopefully our daughters are if we do our job right.
Mhm.
Let me see. Oh, hey, there's Carlo. Welcome. Does anyone have any questions or comments, questions for Miss Marion? Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other comments, I'll go ahead and go play the recording for the next speaker. Oh, okay. Hey,
Okay,
go
sorry.
ahead.
Well, one question. I heard him say, and I hear this all the time, Angol. So does that mean like then this happened, then Angol something, Angol this, Angol that?
Miss Marion, would you like to answer that?
So, it's like, again, anger, and here, it's anger, your dog. Like, it's, angle, and it's just meaning like again and again, or here it is.
Oh, all right. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and pull up the recording.
Melody.
Oh, Hyundai.
Oh, Hyundai and phone.
Ah, they owned it.
Oh, hey, Hyundai am Zeit da, Miss Marion. Hyundai am Zeit da.
Hyundai.
Yeah, and did George did Car Doherty during the recording? Did he mention what time of year it was?
No, he didn't say. I think he was just talking about the past.
Yeah, because like he was like
various things.
Oh, yeah, I was just trying to.
He just mentioned in the beginning. He was just he was not talking about the month of June because he said June, but he said about the Kiowa. But he said yesterday, so he was referring to the past.
Oh,
But he didn't say when. But we know that it had to be the time when people were settling homes. Well, he really didn't say whether they were camping out or living in homes, but if they were planting, like for the spring, or picking some of the whatever, that was in June. So it had to be the time after they were probably building homes or had built homes, living in homes, houses, wood houses.
oh,
Mhm.
All right. Awesome. I'll go ahead and play the recording.
Kuinka no da gietto tää kon te ei ton viitän te kienko koiton ke uuton kuave ke kaket koi kuakeat bode ke have san ke ne ko ton ke ordene on ke ton san on te ke kame pa konte ko te ai ke koiton san den batton ke biita dokument te ko so mun Kia tausi kon tekee kaamon tekee bon ko sen bo ke bon ela ko sen bo ko pa o ko wat no pa hadon te ke kaamo ke pa bin don te ke on bo ko de pa te ke ko mo ke a son de ke de ko ko wat no ke tel koi kan de koi ton ke on de koi ke dok ke de lon ke hai ke ko hai ke moron de dok ke koi kumontane kotselan ke oko kai was kai ke cha onde de ke do koi tu ke do ke ton jan mai ko pak ton ke konde onde ke no ke tone onde ale ko ke hai ke don ke onde ke kom to o ye kom tele kan ke hai echo ke te ko koi ton ke ja, bij grond dat je ke goed en kot opbouw kot aake, dan dat je ke hands on.
Okay. Miss Marion, did you recognize that speaker? I noticed he used a couple English words.
I think it's a tie.
Oh, Stephen
One of
Stephen Zotai Hall.
Steve Hall or something like that. Yeah,
Hall.
that sounds
Oh.
like him.
I know he kind of talks fast also, kind of like Dave Silverhorn.
Mm,
Did you would
yeah.
you like to make any comments about what he shared?
His was very brief. He was talking about the words, Kiowa words. He said we're talking about the Kiowa language long ago. He's just saying there have been changes in some things since then, because now we have like the cow, chain boat, we call it. So they made word for the new items like that. And he said about our word, the word Kiowa that is used for us is not, we didn't call ourselves that. Someone else called us that. And so that's what we're known by today. And, but he didn't say that there was a word to distinguish us. But the word Kiowa was given to us by someone else. And, and some things are just like made up, honey, like any old way. But he said, well, it's good, but people just speak whatever's in their heart. And that was it. But the word Kiowa, which is true, goi gui, a come, a come. That's what I'm saying. But a lot of our Kiowa elders that I knew, they say, I don't know where that word came from. But then on the other hand, we have others like Parker and Louie and Charlie. I'm talking about toy boats. And my grandpa. And they thought about these things because our Kiowa would say, go goo. One day don't get dog. What kind of word is that? And okay, we have all these divisions, Kiowa divisions. Each one has a different. And we have one of our divisions is the elk. Ogoi. Ogoi. That's what it's called. Elk division. Got with the Rickery, the Ree man. It's going down the line like that. But so far, our elders said their decision was whoever wrote that word Kiowa to distinguish us as a Kiowa, and the word stuck way back in way back further, early 1800s. But the closest word to goy goo is like goy, the elk division. So theoretically, we are the first division that was met by non-Indians was a Ogoy band. So we became the Kiowa. That, oh, did you hear what I said? Did you hear? Oh,
Uh-huh.
oh.
So Miss Marion, so Goigu, if the elders if those elders said that perhaps that came from the elk division a long time ago.
That
oh,
word,
oh,
because the elk division was the first division among our tribe, because our tribe, we were not one collective group, because each of the divisions went their separate ways throughout,
oh,
and they met once a year for our big reunion. But so that's the determination by our elders that the word Kiowa came from Kogoi.
oh.
So that's why we call Goi Gu.
So then
And then
there's
the
not really
Okoi
uh
called us Kiowa, and we call ourselves Goi Gu. And
oh,
because the Okoi call us Kiowa, but we call ourselves Goi Gu. And so the reason for that is based on the fact that it's possible, theoretically, everything else. That's what could have happened. They met a division of the Kiowa, which was the elk division. And our people could have just put their hand forward and said, Agueda. We
oh,
are the elk division. But then the Alcoy would take it and say, oh, that's, you know how they twist things around with their translations. They
uh-huh,
could have written out Kiowa. And so,
yeah,
and then they meet these other good bands that come together. And so they call all us Kiowa because we are actually one great big group with many divisions. Because each of our divisions each had a leader.
oh,
The leader of his band, leader of his dwellers, leader of his household. Do,
oh yeah, the Tokpadoki.
So there's a leader for each band division. That's what he was called. Translation, the keeper of all his campers, people.
Mm.
Each one had a separate name. Division, each division separate. Okay, that's lesson number 0.
Oh, we appreciate that. I put the glossary definition in the chat, but that's really interesting. I think what was it? Lewis and Clark, that Lewis and Clark expedition ran into us up in where when we were up in Wyoming area in like the 1600s is what the anthropologists say. And so maybe that's when that happened because they ran into that particular division up there. And
That's
because
what our people say. Because that was
oh,
when they were going west and supposedly writing down all the names of each tribe. And
mm,
so that's what they wrote in their notes. They met the Kiowa at the fork of the Missouri River, just right there in Wyoming, Montana section up there.
mm, oh,
So are we saying that the word goi gu was translated to Kiowa?
No,
We're not saying that that's just the word that the Alkoi gave us because it sounded like koi gu.
no. I'm saying the Kiowa, the leaders could have just put their hand out and introduced themselves as Goy dog. Oh, not goy, but Ogoy. That's elk. We're the elk division. And then the white man wrote it down as Kiowa. But our people call ourselves Goy.
Oh,
They talk. Slog it up.
Aho. I put the glossary term in the chat as well. So you have it for your notes. Let's see. There's that word that Miss Marion was saying, the ogoigu. Ogoigu, for like, that's the name of that band, one of our Sundance bands, or one of the bands of Kiowas that would go off. It's in our Sundance camp circle.
Elk division. That's one of our.
The elk division. And so that's where so it was all based on a misunderstanding. As usual. So then I wonder, what would we call ourselves? Would we go back to our one of our, let's see, I know we have a bunch of other names for ourselves, like the pulling out people, like the people that came out of the cottonwood log. I just wonder about that stuff. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. All right. Well, let's see who the next speaker is.
Kita penko koitong boy koitong ja ja tusan ma te ko he ko yo te ko hon ja ai ho te kita pa hat el solo tom chit o te ko he ko hon ja hai ko but o boy koitong ja to te ko ja pi te a ja ko mo Pia song matches get all here the tow dish put get all con on baton get go jammo pili to del on it get all up for the go the con aim good get on the stay and not go con they go on the you don't you del take coi coi có take có chỉ coi tu san mà hôm nay em tôm chi to này có chỉ hai chỉ to anh thì chỉ to từ lo chỉ còn ba tông chỉ to để lại có chỉ phi chỉ to hôm nay chỉ to chỉ same để anh bắt to này hôm nay từ lo tôm chi để có nó chỉ hai chỉ to có hôm nay chỉ còn mà ấy thì sau đó tông chỉ oi thì có hay chỉ có phi chỉ coi tông chỉ to thì oi có hòn thì thì sự con thì có con chỉ tây coi có xa đó có lá con thì có sau đó em con mà hòn em tao coi con mà em thì chỉ đó
Hatela kom tone go kuno jetai jeta ui te kom te obho kono i hai jeta.
Okay. Miss Marion, did you recognize that speaker?
That was Isabel, Grandma Isabel.
Awesome.
Isabel.
Two hatchet.
Mm.
Oh. Would you like to share anything about what she said?
She said, real Kiowa. She said, there's a lot of it was spoken today, but I mean, a lot that we know, there was a lot of the real Kiowa language. But today, many don't understand the word. And we're losing our language. It's disappearing. And they don't even know what Piaison means. And that means, like, today, that's what you call it, a match. But actually, I mean, it's a flint. And you use that for lighting a fire. And she knew that everything had a Kiowa name, words to describe and in Kiowa. And again, that is disappearing. It's gone. She said, but we knew Kiowa words, language, and someone spoke it or described someone or gave a name in Kiowa. We understood and knew what they meant and the meaning. But then she said, some say same day. You probably heard that. That's more like, eh, it's not, it's just kind of, I don't know what to call it. You're not really making fun of someone, but it's like somebody that's really trying to learn today and they don't really know. So anyway, she said that word is used. But she said all the words that were known, it's like disappearing today. Because there's quite a few. That's what I continually say too. Our vocabulary, Kiowa vocabulary, is very large, and it's just a matter of learning. I don't know what to say about it. It's just immense. But that's what she was commenting on. Okay. Omaha.
Oh, aho. Awesome. Does anyone have any questions? Any comments?
So
I heard her say ooey day, and I've heard my big sister and big brother say that all the time, but I don't know what it is.
It's like you're pointing out something. Ooey day. It means like if somebody's standing over there and you can either point with your lips or they might know exactly what they're trying to tell you, and they go ooey day. They mean over there, or they might be actually pointing at a person, and instead of saying the person's name, they'll just say ooey day. It means over there. And they're not really saying that person, but if you see them actually, or if they name someone and say, Ude call, they'll say, call that person over there. Call, that's what it means. This is actually like pointing out.
Oh.
Oh, awesome. One of the jokes we like saying, or I like saying to my students is, because we like pointing with our lips and we say, we use the ooey day and then ain day, like over here or right here, and then ooey day over there.
Mm,
And then
yeah.
the longer you get your lips, the ooey day way over there. And so everyone always gets a kick out of that. But yeah, so that's a fun one to think about. I thought I saw another question.
That was just me, I think.
Mm.
Piazon. That was. I thought she said something like it meant a match or getting rid of something somehow. Piazon.
PI song. PI song. PI song. That's like today. It's you when you're gonna like something, you ask for a match. Like, but that's the word that our elders used for match instead of saying, because we didn't have matches, but matches were a new thing, and the Indians didn't use flint anymore, but they still refer to the match as piso because it's what you light a fire with.
Paul.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Piaisonda. 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 So the piaisonda is the one or two, and then piaison is three or more. So a whole bunch of them. So she said piaison, so she must have been talking about a whole bunch of them.
No, she's talking about the flint.
Okay.
She just piso dog. She's just pointing out that's what
Oh,
it
okay.
is.
That they haven't used it. They don't use that word anymore.
Or they don't understand those words or use those words. You get asked today, or even what Isabel talking about, yeah, this whatever it was, 20, 30 years ago, she would have said, PI son ain't on. And nobody wouldn't understand what she was saying. She's just using a Kiowa word to say, give me a match. Because the Kiowas, they don't, they use those words, but then as the younger generations come up, they're speaking more English and they quit using those words. And that's why we're saying we're losing our words. They're disappearing.
Is that what she was saying? I wondered. She kept
Oh,
saying, I heard that. She said, yappy, yappy, yeah.
yeah, that's what I say too, but I was just figuring nobody understands what I'm saying anyway, but I say it.
Oh,
Yeah. Go ahead, don't yeah.
the language is disappearing. Is that like it's yappy? Is it like it's getting wiped away or getting washed away? Yappy,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like wiped out.
Mm. Oh,
Melanie,
Hyundai.
I just want to add just a thought. You know, in 1887, that's when Congress passed the General Allotment Act. So I think in our Koitongia, as bad as that, assimilation to allotment lands, I think a lot of our, words, terms, and phrases had to adapt and adjust, just along those barriers because our way of life had to totally change in different, demographic areas according to, what post was actually still hostile among Goy versus those that had ceased, resistance. You know what I'm saying? So I was, listening to these recordings, I always want to, that's why I always kind of reflect. That's why I asked the question earlier about what time of year was this, because I always listen to these elders, their stories, their collaboration is really unique. So I model that after, I wonder what era were they meaning versus, actual, how'd you say it, our stories of our migration. Stories of our migration is different from the stories of our creation stories, you know. So that's just like what I do in my own study, so I'm always one to dive in more and learn more of those different types of particles of our Koitongia, like I was talking about that word. So that's a good term right there. That word's talking about, that, flint versus match. I mean, we was primitive people that lived off the land, off of, you put anything in front of us, we're going to find a way to start it, and I think over the course of time, as that is our, Koitongia had gone through, and that's why we're still here today. That's why I'm just these are, it's a good afternoon of learning. That's what I always bring my mind in, how to, listen to these different elders of their recordings. And I'm glad that we have those to follow. So, Obaha.
Oh, aho. Yeah, I think the recording in the beginning, they said this was recording was being made in, I want to say it was it October or November? At the Wetzeline Church in 1979. And so they're talking about, so these elders that were in the recording, they were like mostly in their 80s and 90s at the time. And so this is in the 70s. So then if you think 80s and 90s, so then they would have been born in the 1890s, around there. And so that would have put them around like at the end of the reservation era. So they would have seen all the changes that had gone through, like from the time of the Medicine Lodge Treaty and then the reservation era. And then they would have lived through the transition to the allotment era. So they would have probably heard stories of the resistance and everything that was going on between the Medicine Lodge Treaty and then living on the KCA reservation and then through the allotment. So it's kind of like, it's really interesting hearing their perspectives, because it's like, they're just like a very unique generation, because they're kind of like in between those, in between the art there, because like Grandma Dorothy always says, the elders in these recordings are our elders today. These are their elders. So it's really neat to hear. And it makes you think, gives you a lot to think about. Hey, ta bing, onde, oi, bon.
They own day by oil farm.
Oh, let's see. All right, any other comments or questions on Isabel Two Hatchets talk? Okay, well, we'll go ahead and play the next speaker.
And the key angle đó thì coi trong cái đó thì trong cái đó on key cái đó thì ô bảo trong cái coi trong cái đó bữa đây thì sau cái con đó coi của đó coi trong cái bảo ôi đi trong thì cái ông thì cũng thế ông đi coi cho cái đó mấy con ai có bữa đây đi ba cái hai cái đó coi trong cái coi đi bây con đi cái ông thì cũng cái cũng đã cái có Atom ke ko hal e ko tong nó hay có là cái bát tông to thì hôn nhà hai có hay có thông coi cái cùng the đó thì coi trong cái mà hôn thì coi trong cái áo bào cái hai cái coi trong sao thế hôn thì coi trong cái tôn thì cái áo bào nó trong
Okay. Let's see, Miss Marion. Would you like to do you recognize this?
I think that was and can you think of her name? Margaret or something like that? Hancock or something.
Margaret Hancock?
Not Margaret. It sounded like her.
That wasn't Hazel, was it?
It might have been Hazel. Her voice is, I couldn't get that. But Hazel usually has more to say.
Oh, that's right.
So I thought it was Margaret.
Oh.
Hyundai.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh.
Oh.
That this is our Kiowa language from the past. And it's our language and our way, as we say, culture, part of our Kiowa life. And we were made this way, and long ago, this is the way it was, has been. We spoke this language and had our way, the traditions, and just saying today, that's the way it is. It still is that way. Because where did our language come from? You know, that's a big question. But she didn't say that. I'm saying that part. But no, she just said it was, this is our language and this is part of our life, the way it is. And that's the way it is. And it's just part of us. And we were created this way. And this has been long ago, and we, continue on today. And that was it. She didn't have any other comments.
Oh. Oh. Wow. Thank you, Mary, for putting that in the chat. These recordings are 46 years old. Wow, almost 50 years old. Holy cow, that's a long time.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That's awesome. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
There was a couple of phrases that I was curious about. Oya Day. It sounded like Oy Day, but she said Oya Day. So I was wondering what that was.
It's really the same thing. It's just a different way of saying it.
That's what I was wondering. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same. That's why I said our Kiowa language, we have different ways, but it means the same thing. Like say uide, and then some say oyode.
Okay. And then another thing she said was I think it was tongoi or tongoi, and I wasn't sure if she was saying, well, didn't know what that was.
It means tonga. It means long ago. Tonga.
Oh. Okay.
Tonga. Long ago. And some of them sounds like they're saying Toinga. It's Tonga.
Tonga. Okay. Hall.
And then if you didn't know what it meant, you might You might think she was talking about water if you don't know the word. Because tong is water, but it's tonga, which means long ago, in the past, in our history, type of thing.
Good questions. Oh. Any other comments or questions? Let's see, I think we'll stop there because we're just about at 5 o'clock. So this recording goes for 57 minutes. So we stopped at 15:11. So I'm just gonna put that in the chat so we can have that for next time. And we'll go ahead and wrap up. So we'll do this again next week. And we'll see y'all on Wednesday. But to close us up, Miss Marion, do you mind? Would you be able to fade outside?
Okay. Ahode dog Tega on ta dog do. Dot hido. Tonga yanda. So I'm tonga. Dot hido. Dekida. Goik ekon baga. Dek go pedo. Ma only. Hego a son. Dot con ton doggy. Ain't a key. Son dogo. Comba. Honey. Goik don't get high go. Go eight. Goik don't mo hey mo. Ain't a key. They goik don't get. Get more sup. More get more soaked. They goik be the hang get dog. Honey on day. Dolores and Dorothy bingo. Toy a dog. Oh yeah, they pedal though. Goik don't get 8 more, 8 more. Goik on bar. Bait audit. Ain't a key. Goik son dog. Goik don't get 8 more, 8 more. Goik don't get all oi got. I get so. But more hang. Boy about boy they Goik don't get peak get Ain't on they key. God you. Hey God, hey. I'll call my hang. God. So I get Goik don't get peak out. They go pay dog on. They go that toad they. God I can't eat dog. Dog eat I'm like eating dog. They on they on high get dog. Outside they look. They on they get tag on they dog go. Goik go. They go eagle dog. That high dog. Get I. My yoke go can I I'll be tied up. They go on they dog eat. I hold it, you know. I hold it, dog eat. Overhaul.
Oh.
Melody,
Monday.
in the syllabus that we got from the thing, there's a schedule for fall, and it looks like the first Sunday was August 24th, and then I guess it's every other one. So are you doing one every week instead, or?
Yeah, there was a request by our elders to go ahead and do it every week. You can still join every other week. It's totally fine, but I'm gonna go ahead and keep it every week. The only week it won't be, I'll go ahead and cancel the ones that won't. I'll do that right now. But the weekend of Tonkonga, when for Tonkonga, when I think it's the second Sunday in October, October 12th, I think. We won't have a session. And then I think that's the only one because the rest of the holidays are kind of in the week. So and then we'll break, we'll be right before we kind of take a break for winter break, for Christmas break. I think the last session will be December 14th or so. And then we'll pick up again in about January after school starts in January. So, but yeah, so if you want to join, join when you can. These will be posted on the website and on YouTube, so you'll be able to catch them when you can. But yeah, glad everyone could join. Good to see everyone, and we'll see you next time. See y'all Wednesday. So, hega ba oi bonta, hega ba oi don ta ta.
Oh, but
Oh.
Obaha.